Hi guys, thought I'd do a quick test, see if I can get this video recording actually working for a change. Spoke to Michael on Discord last night and he wanted to know how I did this. This is like a Ben Bohmer remake, so I just thought I'd do a quick explanation of how I created the sounds. So it's for Michael really. Hope you guys find it interesting though. I'll do a quick playthrough and then I'll go through each section. Okay, so it's just the main elements that I've captured. I usually find deconstructing my favourite tracks is a very good way to learn how to produce a certain type of sound. So obviously this is Ben Bohmer and the original track is Breathing, if you've never heard it before. So ignore the first two tracks. The first one's just a kick, obviously, just to give some context, and the second one is a loop, just a tops loop, which sounds like this on its own. As you can hear, there's a little bit of swing in there for sure. Put the processing on the kick. I'll just put a quick EQ, just cutting out some resonances, a little bit of passive EQ just to beef it up a bit, and then the top loop, just a bit of passive EQ to bring out the drums again, and a little bit of side chaining. And then the clap itself, just used as an intro really, so obviously for that I've got EQ and I've got a little bit of vintage verb, 30% wet, concert hall preset, just rolled off some of the low frequencies as well, just to give it that sort of ambient feel. So the main bits are, the first one I started with was the chords. These are the chords. Took a while to work these out. They're essentially major and minors with a few sevenths thrown in, and then they're inverted, change positions. And you can see here, these are the actual chords that I've used. I'll just quickly unmute just the chords with the drum backing. Ben Bohmer tends to use a lot of saw waves for his chords and his bass lines really, but especially for his chords. So if I just show you what processing I've got on here before I go into the actual sound design, I've got some just EQ right off the bottom end, make room for the bass, a little bit of, that's in the wrong place, a little bit of passive just to beef it up a bit, side chain, make room for the kick, and then some iZone imager to widen the sound. Got this quite wide if I remember rightly. Yeah. So the actual sound design, I've used Serum for this. So to break it down then, I've not got a sub, although I've played this quite low on the register of notes. This is down in the C2, C3 range. So there's two oscillators, the basic MG, not for a saw wave. Bit more of a saw wave on the second oscillator. First oscillator has got 3 voices, slightly detuned. Second saw wave has got 1 voice, obviously that doesn't make any difference. The amp envelope, it's not been changed other than I've extended the decay out to 196. Obviously it starts off around about here, and I've increased the release a little bit. The main sound, the the sort of triplet feel that this chord has got on its own, if I just play it, is generated from this. So in Serum, the LFO starts off here. This is the default position. So all I've done, drag it over to the left. Normally this would be off, so this wouldn't make any difference. I've turned the triplet grid on and I've set it to quarter triplet. You'll see what difference this makes. So that's the LFO there. As I said, there's no sub. There's a little bit of noise thrown in as well, just a simple AC hum. I've reduced the level a bit, not changed the levels of the main two oscillators. For FX, I've just added a little bit of hall reverb, 37% wet. Nothing else on there. The main bit, obviously, when you take the filter off, it's quite harsh. The minute you turn the filter on, it really softens. I've got all the oscillators and the noise going through the filter. So I've got this set on about 279, and obviously the LFO is also going through this. So you can see what difference this makes if I change this. If I increase the LFO effect, so I found for this particular sound, obviously I'm trying to recreate the original chords from the original track from Ben. That's sort of the sweet spot that I found. There's no LFO, there's no envelope 2, it's just envelope 1. I've just changed that slightly. I've put the LFO 1 onto there. I've switched on the triplet grid and I've changed it to quarter triplet, which complements the groove from the top loop. So that's the chord. I've called it the Ben Bohmer 1/4 triplet pad. I've got that saved. If you guys use Serum and you want this sound, just give me a shout and I can send you the actual file. So that is the chord, the bass. Again, I've used Serum for this. I've used Serum for all of this just because Serum's easy. So this is what it sounds like on its own. So with this one, 2 saw waves, 1 voice on each. It's going to be mono anyway to baseline. I've got a sub, 1 octave lower. I increase the level quite high. It's a sine wave. It's not a saw. Just the 2 saw waves here. This one is standard on the same octave that I'm recording the notes on. The second oscillator, if I just play it on its own, so that's normal. That one's a lot lower, and you'll notice this one's a lot thicker. The reason for that, this is all normal, 1 voice, normal volume. As soon as I turn the second one, it'll thicken the sound up. The reason it does that, although I've not increased the voices, that's one way of doing it. The reason it sounds thicker is I've dropped the octave by 1 and I've increased the semitones by +7, perfect fifth. I can do the same going down, just makes it sound thicker. There's no envelope 2, envelope 1 I've pretty much left standard. I've just increased the release up to 229. The LFO is exactly the same as the chords. Obviously it started off there, so I just dragged it across. I've also lowered it a little bit, and then I've turned on the triplet grid, same as the chords triplet grid, everything else is off. And then obviously the filter again is the main bit, so if I open up the filter as if it weren't on, that's what it sounds like. Drag it down to around about there. I thought that was about the sweet spot. So that's the bass line. And then he also uses on the original track a stab, which sounds like this. Tin Liquor does this quite a lot as well, just gives some context, helps with the rhythm. So let's hit the notes. Just a simple B note on the 2 and the 4. So for the actual sound, again Serum, 2 saw waves. As I say, Ben Bohmer likes to use his saw waves. One voice, no sub, no noise. Envelope 2, envelope 3 wasn't changed. I've left the LFOs, I've not used the LFOs on this. The envelope 1, I've attached to the filter. So I've increased the release up to 326, brought the sustain down, as you can see. You see the values here, to be fair. I brought that down so it's more of a pluck sound, obviously. The decay has also been reduced. I've left these 2 alone. And the filter, obviously it normally starts off there without the filter. So I thought about there, this sounds about right. And obviously this is running from the envelope 1. That's what it's doing here. It's just cutting the sound off after it's hit. Very simple clock sound. If I go into the automation, obviously I've got no automation on the bass line. For the stab that we're hearing, you'll hear it open up. Obviously I've done the same with the chords as well. Just opened it up just to give a bit of movement, really, make it sound a bit different. Obviously it's the same chord pattern that runs throughout the track itself. Just gives it a bit of interest, really, a bit of variety. So throw the bass on top of that. And that's the little project I created in its entirety. So Michael, hope you watch this and hope you find it useful. You did ask a few questions on a private message, hope that's answered them. As I said earlier, any of you guys that do use Serum, if you like any of these sounds, just give me a shout and I'll send you the preset. Okay, cheers for watching, guys. See you later.